It's caught in the crossfire.
From Donald Trump to the president of Turkey, that made us do a double take. So weird. We had to check with the White House to make sure it's real, and that was our delay. It is. I want to read you the whole thing. Dear Mr. President, let's work out a good deal, exclamation point. You don't want to be responsible for slaughtering thousands of people, and I don't want to be responsible for destroying the Turkish economy, and I will. I've already given you a little sample with respect to Pastor Brunson. I've worked hard to solve some of your problems. Don't let the world down. You can make a great deal. General Muslim is willing to negotiate with you, and he's willing to make concessions that they would never have made in the past. I'm confidentially enclosing a copy of his letter to me just received. History will look upon you favorably if you get this done the right and humane way. It will look upon you forever as the devil if good things don't happen. Don't be a tough guy. Don't be a fool. Second exclamation point. I will call you later. Sincerely, Donald Trump. I have no words.
Well, I have no words either about what to say about the letter. I did before we read that letter. I'd gotten this quote that I was interesting about their call. They talked, right? In the beginning, this all started with a talk between the two of them. So I'm not really sure why a letter was necessary. Maybe they could have just called. Maybe Trump thought it was going to be a PR coup to send out the letter. I'm not sure in what context. Maybe on the other cable network they'll like it. But after the Trump call, what the Turkish advisor said was President Trump and Erdogan have reached an understanding over precisely what this is. Trump knows what the scope of this operation is. So I think as we look into what happened, we need to know what happened on that call, because Trump might now be trying to back off and say, Erdogan's being a tough guy, he's overstepping. But Erdogan is saying that he knew exactly what was going to happen, and he okayed it on that call.
All right, NBC News international correspondent Keir Simmons is in the Turkish capital city of Ankara, where Pence and Pompeo will be arriving later. Keir, just take this letter into sort of the fabric that you weave to us about what they think there of America and our leader right now.
Yeah, Nicole, well, one of the questions is how exactly President Erdogan would receive a letter that talked about him as, potentially a fool. He's a proud and stubborn leader. Is that the kind of diplomatic language that works? But that's not really the crucial thing about this letter. The crucial thing about this letter is that it seems to be dated October the 9th, which is days after the phone call in which the president is thought to have given the Turkish leader the green light. So by the time this letter is sent here in Turkey, President Erdogan already has his military moving. He's about to start firing the first shots. And in a sense, it kind of sums up what's profoundly wrong here. This isn't a game. This isn't Twitter. This is a military moving to cross a border. You can't just play with this, and that I think is what President Trump appears to think that he's doing. And now, Nicole, standing here in Ankara, waiting for the Vice President and the Secretary of State to arrive to meet with President Erdogan, I mean, effectively, to use a completely appropriate analogy, the President is sending his Vice President and Secretary of State here completely unarmed. You can imagine the conversation with President Erdogan. When they say to President Erdogan, we want a ceasefire, President Erdogan says, but your President Trump, just described the Kurds as some of them worse than ISIS, and I'm fighting them. So why do you want a ceasefire? They might say to him, well, look, this is not in America's interests. And Erdogan can turn around and say, but your president just said that if Russia wants to get involved, that's fine. He's completely undermined his own Vice President and Secretary of State. And they are trying, even now, to say that they'll ask for a ceasefire, but at the same time, the Secretary of State saying that he doesn't want to divide from Turkey. It's extraordinary diplomacy, if you can even call it diplomacy. Just another point, Nicole. One comment from President Erdogan that I thought was fascinating today, saying the trip to the United States is an issue we will evaluate after discussions with the delegations that are coming here. I read that as suggesting that President Erdogan now is threatening that he may not come to the White House. The trip that he is planned to make if he doesn't get what he wants in these meetings tomorrow. It's stunning.
A stunning connection about the date, Keir. I missed that. But obviously, this decision was announced by the White House after the call with Erdogan Sunday night. That's 4 news cycles before. By Wednesday, what was happening here in the States? Donald Trump was getting crushed politically, and there was news coverage on all the networks, including the one he likes, about whether or not his Syria policy would imperil his impeachment situation among Senate Republicans. It's a really important note. I also want to ask you, though, it's not like Turkey's the only actor Donald Trump has to deal with. Putin has now re-engaged Erdogan. Tell us about that.
That's exactly right. President Erdogan has been on the phone with President Putin. It's reported in Russia that he's agreed in the coming days to go and meet with President Putin. So the messaging is pretty clear to President Trump. I have another friend. So I can negotiate here. I have leverage. Now, look, the reality on the ground in Syria is that not everything is going President Erdogan's way. We're hearing now that the pro-Damascus Syrian forces are in Kobani and that Russian forces are at least surrounding that famous town where the Americans and the Kurds fought ISIS. That is inside the 20-mile corridor that President Erdogan has said that he wants to create inside Syria. So the facts on the ground aren't going entirely Turkey's way. But I've got to say, and I said it yesterday, it appears to me right now that the negotiation is going to happen through President Putin, not through President Trump, not through Vice President Pence, not through the Secretary of State.